Welcome back to Common Sense Rhode Island. I'm Representative Patricia Morgan, and today we have as our guest Mayor Scott Avedisian, and he's been talking to us about the reentry program here in Warwick, and I was lucky enough to actually go to one of the meetings.
And what did you think?
I thought it was a very successful meeting, and one of the reasons was normally, I mean, those folks have no reason to like anybody in authority. But after the meeting was over, after they heard the tone from your community police chief and from all the people in the room, they were getting up and they were going to ask questions, ask what they can do, what do I need to do. So they were plugging in right away. It was clear to me that everybody who was there wants to have a better life. They don't want to go back to prison. They want to have a productive life. They want to get a job. They want all the things that everybody else has. And for some, whatever reason, they've gotten off track. So they were good. It was a good meeting.
Good. You know, we also have the Anchor Recovery Center at Kent County Wide. And you go and talk to people there who are showing us that they're getting over their addictions. First of all, I think it's really important that that be right on Main Street in our community to show people that we're not afraid to confront these issues and that we're going to work with people who are in recovery. But when you go there, you listen to some of the stories, and you have to be really cold and heartless to not be moved by some of the things that people have had to endure in their lives. And they're still willing to come back and be part of a community, and the only thing they want is to do the right thing. And so if we can help them get there, it's perfect, which is why we're willing to tackle all sorts of issues in trying to get people the services they need. And you know, the one that you brought up, that you brought from a meeting you had gone to in the Vivitrol program, you know, it may not be the answer to everyone, but it's going to be part of an overall value system that's going to allow us to give people the right intervention at the right time to make it all work.
Yeah, yes. Right now there are, well, let's talk about opioid addiction. It's not just people from bad family situations. We know that, some doctors become addicts, nurses, teachers,
and
businessmen, teenagers, college students. They try something. The drugs now are so powerful.
And then they're hooked, and you're not going to get a doctor who's going to go to my health center and say, I'm addicted, I need help.
Well, there's the stigma, and you're right.
Absolutely.
Businessmen would not want anybody to know that they've got this problem. They could have gone in just for a surgery and come out with all these drugs, and now they're hooked.
So, two ways to illustrate it. We have a prescription take-back program in our police department where you can bring prescriptions in. Every once in a while I ask them, what do we get? You know, what gets dropped off?
Yeah.
The number of opioid prescriptions that people have, that they leave there. Now, you know, that's a small fraction of what's actually out there, but it seems that people are more and more medicated all the time, and so it only takes a short period of time before someone could get hooked on that. So that's one thing. There's a lot of medication out there.
I believe I read that something like 80% of all the painkillers in the world are consumed by Americans. So we have an overprescription problem.
We do, and people are taking,
and it's powerful.
And they're taking medication for all sorts of things. And I think we're overly medicated society anyway.
But I think Congress has worked recently on that part of it. But we're not going to talk about that.
No, but I think part of it is, so there's a prevalence of prescriptions in our society. That's number one. Number two, when you have someone who is say, white collar, how are we going to get to them? Even if they know that they want help and that they don't want to be on opioids or on prescriptions, how do you reach them? So I think what we've tried to do, and Vivitrol is a drug that's administered monthly. I'm sorry, it's not a drug. It's an antidote that's
Right.
is given every month that prevents someone from using opioids to get high.
That's it.
And so
It holds huge promise.
and it's going to be on the spectrum as to a possibility that we can offer people. So, as
Yeah.
we've talked about, what are the possibilities? So the Everett Wilcox Family Health Center at Comprehensive Community Action will enroll people so that they can get Health Source Rhode Island coverage in order to get that treatment. But we also know that that's only one segment of it. We're
Well-
going to have people who have private insurance, want to beat their addiction issue, and are not going to go to a health center.
I think one of the really good things right now is both all neighborhood, United Healthcare, and Blue Cross Blue Shield will cover Vivitrol, and that has just happened in the last month,
Right.
which is a really good thing to happen, because before, if you didn't have insurance, you didn't know how to get the drug.
Right,
If
and-
you wanted to try it.
And even if you had insurance, you weren't going to go to where it would have been dispensed, because you're not going to, if you're the well-known, highly visible doctor in the community, you're not going to stand in line at the health center next to people that you might see.
That's right.
So we have also partnered with Bridgemark Addiction and Recovery Services, and Christine Harkins runs a great program there, to have them do the private pay patients so that there's anonymity and no one will know, and we can go to someone's office, we can have Bridgemark will have office visits, home visits, whatever we need to do, because it's going to be yet another tool to try to get people off of their addictions. And
Right.
when you first brought it to me, I was saying, we already do all these other things, and we do. We have a whole series of programs we run, but this one is very different in that it doesn't replace drug for drug.
That's
and it's
it.
a very different attitude, and it may be, for some people it'll work, for some people it probably won't. But you know what? It's giving us an option to go out there and say that more than 100 people a year dying of opioid addictions in Rhode Island is unconscionable, and we've got to, whether it be cities and towns, the health department, we've all got to be working on something that some segment of this to make it better for everybody.
Right. And for me, it's not just about the people who die, which is horrible, but it's also about those who are trapped in the addiction, and their lives aren't as good as they could be because they are constantly drug seeking them.
And families that fall apart
And the
because
money
of it.
that they're spending, and their families are getting
Right.
less because of it.
And then it goes right back to the reentry issue, because then if you're selling or you're consuming, that ends up being a drug charge, and when you get to the drug charge, then you
If you
end
get
up
caught.
being incarcerated, and that's where it just snowballs in the whole effect, and we're in trouble.
And even those who don't end up in the criminal justice system, but are just consuming a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of living time following their addiction, we want them to break it too.
Well,
There's just too much of it
and
that's
there's-
impairing lives.
And there's way too much of that time that's taken up in the emergency rooms of our hospitals, and if we can help solve it in some way, we're going to be better off as a group.
I think so too. Anyway, we're going to go back and talk a little bit more about it when we return.